Today, I have the pleasure of introducing a friend, a client, a fellow investor, somebody that I admire, and I want to share him with you. So Michael Villalpando is down in Colorado Springs. We bumped into each other about 2019. He had already owned one property and he was on to the second one. Well, right now we have his fifth working in the pipeline. So Michael, thank you so much for taking time with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. I'm excited to talk with you.
Oh, so fun what you're doing. And specifically, we're talking today about Airbnb income. And you've got a unique model. So I want you to kind of talk about what you look for in a home, because every single one of the homes that we've helped you buy, you've either bought them with multiple units, even though they've been single families, right? They had a rentable basement or an auxiliary dwelling unit in the garage or cottage, or you turned it into something that had multiple rental units. Talk about what you look for in a property.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of early on, we realized, hey, you could buy a house for $450 and this other little house would be worth, $250, $300. But when they were both on the same lot, like an ADU in that scenario, we got quite a big discount on it. Most families are like, why would I need a house with a guest house? I don't trust my kids out there by themselves. So and I don't have a mother-in-law yet to put out there. So we really targeted just that strategy and being able to get more bang for your buck with having multiple units on the same property. And like you said, most of them have all been quote unquote single family. But either with like a walkout basement or that ADU, so you get great financing on the front end, but then also great rental income as well.
And have you moved into every single one of them? I know that
Yes.
You've moved into a majority. Okay, so you've moved into every
Yes.
single one of them. So you're doing this every 11 to 13 months. You're just doing it again and again. Love that. Because then you can put as little as 5% down. You can have a primary home interest rate versus an investment.
Yep.
And that is okay. You signed an occupancy certification at closing saying that your intent was to live in it in a year, and you do. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So Airbnb or short-term rentals is your key income source. Talk to me a little bit about what makes that purchase a little bit different and how do you set it up?
Yeah, absolutely. We've definitely found we've tripped over ourselves when we weren't utilizing the Rueth team each time for those. You can, the short-term rental income can draw a lot of flags from underwriting. So making sure you've got someone on your team that understands that and how to navigate that has been huge. Before we have it on our tax returns or after, and then of course in the first year you have massive startup costs. So those are all little things that make the acquisition side of it a little trickier than normal when you don't have just a long-term lease in place and you could take 75% of that for your income. It's all been a little tricky, but it's worth it, I think.
It is a little bit more, I don't want to say challenging, but the tax returns does offer some complexity, right? The short-term rental, you either want to set it up in an LLC or you want to have the history of that. But now what do you look for in a property specifically to feel good about its options as a short-term rental property?
Yeah, absolutely. It's changed a little bit over the years as we've learned and grown. At first it was like, hey, we were trying to think what do we like to stay in when we go on vacation and really focusing on that. We tried to make the kitchens nicer and stuff like that. But I think we forget that Colorado is just so amazing for the outdoors. So we've learned we could have a lot of value add by just putting in a fire pit outside or a little patio with some chairs. And if you can see the mountains from where you're at, the Texans love it. And I think like 25% of our guests are from Texas. So just learning as we go and really trying to make sure that we got a place that people enjoy to be at. And, people want to stay in a place with a nice kitchen and a nice bathroom and stuff like that. But, 90% of the time they're out hiking, they're out skiing, they're out doing things that Colorado has. So I think as natives here, we forget that. how amazing it is outside. And so just really trying to focus on that and make it great for guests has really helped with our rental income.
Where do you find most of your tenants?
We have primarily only been on Airbnb. We've done that for years. We have recently branched out to VRBO and Booking.com as well. But you don't have to get that complex to get started. When a lot of people, they'll interchange Airbnb like Kleenex, like we're gonna go get an Airbnb for the weekend. They don't say, let's go get a short-term rental. So just going where the most attention is, the most traffic is, will get you in the right spot.
And what have you found that helps you determine how much you should charge? Like, is it different based on the season? Is it different based on the weekend versus weekday? How do you come up with those numbers?
I love that question because I don't know how much I charge. So we have a third-party software program that does it for us. It sounds intimidating and complex, but it's $20 a month, and it adjusts your rates just like a hotel does, just like an airline does. They just look at the neighborhood as a whole and can tell on occupancy. So I don't need to know if there's a Taekwondo competition in town or the US Open or the Pikes Peak Hill Climb. It'll adjust our rates just based on how booked everyone else is. So if everyone else is really booked and mine's still open, the software automatically increases our price for those days. And then, like a February Tuesday night that has very little traffic coming to the area, it'll drop your price just to get booked. And so utilizing something as simple as that can really help, because the people who just charge $99 a night for the whole year, they lose a ton in the summer, and then they're probably half open during the winter, and that vacancy can really hurt.
Yeah, and you leave money on the table in the high peak seasons, and you have vacancy in the low peak seasons. What's the name of that software?
Yep. That one is Price Labs. Price Labs is a very popular one, and Beyond Pricing is another one. But every day there seems to be more and more software kind of catered around it as the industry continues to grow.
Now, do you notice you didn't have that originally, or maybe I'm just assuming that you didn't have it originally. Have you noticed that you've earned more money since you've instituted something like that?
So we did actually start with that. Just with anything, when I get excited about something, I try to learn as much as I can. And we read a $12 book, and that book told us to do all the things that we currently do. And it's definitely something I'd recommend than trying to figure it out on your own, or just reading Facebook posts in a Airbnb group or something like that.
Do you remember the name of the $12 book?
Optimize Your Airbnb.
And
it used to be Optimize Your Airbnb, or My Airbnb. They had to change it to short-term rental because they had their name in there. But he used to work for Airbnb as well. So the guy who wrote it. So there's a lot of good information in there.
Well, I tell you, if just somebody listens to those couple of tricks,
yeah, absolutely,
that's a big win. What would you say somebody's starting out, right? Now I focus on long-term rentals. So if anybody asks me anything about a long-term rental, I've got tips and tricks. What are your top 3 tips and tricks for somebody who's wanting to short-term rent?
Top couple tricks is just make it look nice, make it look cute. It doesn't need to have a ton of stuff. But you kind of do want it to feel homey. As the space has gotten more and more competitive, I think 5-10 years ago, you used to be able to just put something up and furnish it with all Goodwill stuff and really make a lot of revenue. And now it's gotten more and more competitive with bigger companies buying a lot of short-term rentals, and then people like me trying to buy more and more and be more and more competitive. So just making it look cute helps a ton, because unfortunately, if we have the longest description ever that's super thorough and detailed, nobody reads it. They swipe through 6 pictures and they hit book. So they don't read your house rules, unfortunately. They don't read a whole lot of anything. But if you make it look good, you'll get a lot of traffic coming your way. So that's kind of one thing we've started to focus a little bit more on, where in the beginning, I'd see my wife buy some art piece that was on the wall that I thought was way too expensive. And it actually has a great ROI if it's eye-catching and makes people book your place.
So great pictures are a huge win and something to spend the money
Absolutely.
on. Okay.
Yes. Professional pictures, not your phone.
Not the phone. Perfect.
Not your phone.
Perfect. Anything else?
Those are kind of the big ones. I mean, if you're, and not worrying about having the best location or the best situation. At first I was like, hey, we need to be able to walk to downtown. We want to be really close to Garden of the Gods. And then you kind of take a step back and you think, okay, if I was going to Austin for the weekend, would I know the difference between this neighborhood and this neighborhood? The locals know that. Like, we all know that. Our agents know that. They help to get you in the right neighborhood, where one, maybe only half mile away could be a way cheaper price. That actually seems to work better on Airbnb, just because you're not having that massive upfront cost. And if someone looks at a map, you're close enough, So that kind of surprised me as well as we continued to grow, was just how flexible you can be with your location.
Got it. That's huge, because there's a huge amount of opportunity in savings buying in the next neighborhood over. And then to be able to furnish it adequately, but not over the top, get a couple of eye-catching pieces, professional photography, and make sure that you use the software that'll regulate the prices. Those are all fantastic tips. One last question as we kind of wrap this up. What would you say? So a lot of people are talking about auxiliary dwelling units and having that apartment above the garage or that cabin in the backyard. How much has that supported your success with short-term rentals? And did you build any, or do you only buy them with them?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are huge. For house hacking especially, it was great to be able to have a totally separate place that my wife and I could live, and then rent out the other place while we were there. So that was huge. And then especially after you leave, having those two with two separate yards, or some of them are still shared yards. Those work really great as well. If you just have one nice patio set with cornhole and like some string lights out there, can be really great for revenue. But we previously tried to buy them already completed, but unfortunately, as the markets continued to be hotter and hotter in Colorado Springs and all across Colorado, we have also done our own garage conversion as well. And so that was kind of fun, being able to design it from scratch and really be able to make sure everything was the way we wanted it to, be the best for tenants and be the best for short-term rentals, but also in case, something was to happen and we had to pivot, and hey, what would a travel nurse want? Or what would, a corporate rental want? Those are things that we really enjoyed and were able to help us with that.
And I like that you said that, because that's where I was going to land, is that, for a note, Colorado Springs still allows short-term rentals, even if you don't live there. So I know Denver rules are different, so you absolutely need to check wherever your local area is, what the guidelines are. So thank you, Michael. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. You gave some phenomenal tips. I know you've been successful. I know you're knocking it out of the park and now purchasing that fifth one. Any parting words as we say goodbye?
No, just go for it. It's not rocket science. It can be a little intimidating. You're of course going to hear naysayers about, oh, what if someone parties in your house or something like that? But it gets cleaned every 3 days and it's always staged gorgeous. So if we needed to sell on a dime, we could do that, unlike a long-term rental. So just some of those little things, just make it happen.
Make it happen. Yes, I would say that you want to educate yourself, but then you've got to be willing to jump. Otherwise, you're never going to know. If you stay in this analysis paralysis, you're not going to capitalize on today's low interest rates and the opportunities that we know that it's going to cost more to purchase that same home tomorrow. Well, Michael, thank you so much again. It's always a pleasure.